Hey guys, it's Brittany from Drops of Jupiter Astrology. I am back with another astrology video, and I wanted to start this new series about the houses in the chart because I feel like there's a lot of information out there about what each of the signs, the zodiac signs mean, what some of the planets in the signs mean, and all of that. But there's not a lot of information about what the houses mean or what the houses even are. And I feel like that's probably one of the most confusing things when you first look at a chart, what it is. You hear somebody say, I have Saturn in Sagittarius in the fourth house, and you're like, what does that mean? So when you start to understand the houses a little better, it helps you to instantly kind of start to say, oh, okay, so that means Saturn is in the planet that the house that represents home, and then you immediately start thinking fourth house as home, and then you can start putting attributes to that and understanding a little bit more of what that means. The best and simplest way to understand what the houses are is the houses are where the energy manifests in your chart. Okay, so it's not necessarily let's start. We're going to start with the first house, and I'm going to move through them each video so that you can really understand what each of them are. But we're going to start with first house here. I have my little chart here. So on this chart here, we have, this is the first house. This is always the first house, even though the first house is ruled by Aries and Mars. This is where your rising sign goes, and this is always the first house. So whether or not Aries, the zodiac sign Aries, or Mars are in the first house is always in the same spot, and it's ruled by Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So on this chart in particular, we have Sagittarius in the first house. So this person has a Sagittarius rising sign. So whatever sign is ruling your first house is your rising sign. And based on your rising sign, that makes the layout for what all the other signs are in these houses here, and it maps out your life. If you have Virgo in the first house, it means you're going to have Libra in the second house. But here we have Sagittarius in the first house, so they have Scorpio in their second house. So that affects their second house differently than it would if you had Virgo here. Scorpio in the second house, which is house of finances and, money and all things beautiful and things that we love and all of that. I mean, that's ruled by Venus, and it's going to be different if we have Scorpio here versus whether we have Libra here, which is also ruled by Venus in the second house. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself here while explaining this, but so this is always the first house, and this is your rising sign. This is the cusp. This is the first house cusp, and it's the house of self. The first house is the house of self. You can always remember, if you go back to my Aries video, you will hear me say that Aries is all about the independence, and it's about what's best for the self, and understanding that you are going to do what's best for you, and it's an independent sign. So those attributes are acquired to the first house. Now that doesn't mean that you're like, well, on first house, and I have planets in this first house, and it means that I'm like the same. It's the same energy as if it were Aries. It's not exactly like that. With houses, it's where the energy manifests. Okay, so if you have trying to think Venus, let's say, in the first house, it's not the same thing as having Venus in Aries. What Venus in the first house means is where Venus is going to manifest in your life. Okay, so the first house is house of self. So anything going on in the first house, whether it be the sign in the first house or planets in the first house, those things are all going to be affecting your independence, your physical body, and how you make up your personality. Okay, so and how you show the world, how the world sees you. That's all going to manifest in the first house. So if you have Venus in the first house, we might be able to say, depending on how it's aspected, of course, that you are very beautiful. Because Venus is beauty, and it's things that we love. And so, if you had Libra, say you were a Libra rising and you had Venus, which is ruled by Libra, or I'm sorry, Venus rules Libra. That would be indicative of beauty, of a very attractive individual. So, that's where that beauty manifests. Now, it's not manifesting in the fourth house, right? It's not being applied to your home life. You're going to have a beautiful home life, right? No, it's being applied to the first house, which is self. So it's also the physical body. So you could say this person is going to be thin and beautiful, and that is where you're going to see that energy manifest within that person. So the first to the 12th house, those houses have attributes, and those attributes are that part of your life that you're going to see the energy. So if it were Venus in the 7th house, which is relationships, you're going to see that energy manifest in your relationships and in your marriage and, things of that nature. So sticking to first house, though, first house cusp, as I said, this line right here, first house cusp, this is your, this is the rising sign. This is your ascendant. And it's the home of your ascendant. And that is, the ascendant is very simply the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon over your mother's hospital bed as you were being born. There's a sign rising, and that sign is your rising sign. That sign is representative of your soul. It's representative of, everything that you are going to ascend, walk up the stairs to as you, make your way through your life and follow this path that you will be on to become, a whole individual. And so, this rising sign is at that moment you were born, you have this sign for the rest of your life, for this life. And so basically, if we really think of it, we can think of it as, in terms of sunrise, the sun is rising and it's new beginnings. So the first house is the beginnings, and so that's where we grasp all our first concepts are in the first house. It's the start of your new voyage in your body. So this is your rising sign, and you were given this at the moment you were born. This is new beginnings, and the first all the way to the fourth house, which is right here. These are the houses that explain your childhood and really help astrologers to understand what your childhood was like. And so, we go from first house of self all the way to fourth house of home and family. And so, this first house is very important because it's the beginning of, your new discovery of you as a person and who you are and who you'll become, and how you will walk this path in your new life. So first house really is the realization of, ultimately it's helping you realize your potential. And as you grow and you ascend towards your rising sign, you start to really understand who you are and your life's purpose. And when we look at your rising sign and we also look at your Saturn placement, it can really help you understand why you're here and what you're ascending to and what your life's purpose is. with first house, it's going to describe our physical body. So your body type on this chart in particular, let's just say as an example, this is Sagittarius in the first house. That would make this person very indulgent. It would make this person somebody that has more of a stocky body type generally. It always depends how it's aspected. But your first house is physical body, particularly the head and face. So like I said, Libra rising people, they have very beautiful faces. People that are Virgo risings, they tend to be long and lanky and build muscle really quickly, and tend to be attractive as well. People that are, Sagittarius risings, they tend to, like I said, be more indulgent, and they're people that are a little bit more stocky. And the same goes for Taurus rising people. They tend to be more stocky, more round, not as tall. So you get the idea that this first house is going to speak to your physical body, and what your physical body looks like, because it's our appearance to the outside world. It's what we show the outside world, and it's how people perceive us. So I run into people all the time, and I'll, start talking to them about their signs, and they'll say, oh, I'm, a water sign. And I'll say, well, you definitely don't appear as a water sign, or, I'm an earth sign, and, I'm really into finances, and, being, I'm a Capricorn, and I really don't like to talk about things that aren't gonna, be good business deals, and I don't want to, whatever. And we get into these conversations, and I say, well, you realize that you don't show as that, because, whether let's say you're a fire rising sign, and you've got an earth, sign for your sun, you're definitely not going to be showing as much as the earth sign right off the bat. If you've got fire or air as a rising sign, you're going to be somebody that's able to say, hey, how's it going? And, there's going to be a split within your personality that people don't understand. So you're going to appear what your rising sign is. You're going to be more talkative, or you're going to have a lot more energy or more chi than what you actually, have when you go home. You may have a split chart, fire and water, and you come off really fiery to people, and that's how you're being seen because you're a Sag rising. But, at the end of the day, you're a Pisces sun and, a Cancer moon, and you need to just go home and retract and be quiet. So you're showing the world from that first house rising sign, you're being perceived as like a fiery person that feels like they've got all this chi and they've got things moving and they're able to talk and converse and they're interesting, but yet they really do feel like there's a split and they need to kind of, step back and have their own time, quiet time to themselves. And people don't see that. They don't see them as being a quiet, dreamy Pisces that needs to sit and disconnect. So that's one thing that we do need to realize, that the person that we perceive is different from the person that they actually are as a whole. We need to put all these things together, sun, moon, and rising, to really figure out what a person's personality is like and where the splits are. And, if somebody is able to be entertaining and, on like a fire sign or an air sign, they may also need to be able to step back and have to be a little quiet and ground themselves because they've got some other elements that don't want to be on or around people or talk so much. So, that is something that's really interesting with first house. You're being perceived as something that you may not feel all the time. And so it's really important to understand that is why. Your first house is how you're perceiving, your perception to the world. And when you are conscientious of your perception to others, it helps you to, inspire compassion for yourself, but also understand what others are feeling about you, which makes you more confident in yourself. So, that first house is really shaping us, and it's our beginnings. So the first house, bottom line, it's going to speak to the person that we're becoming, the person that we do eventually become. It's that ascendant. We're walking up the stairs towards this energy over the course of a lifetime, both internally and externally. And it addresses our personality and our presentation to the world, what people see, how we are being perceived, and, real personality qualities, essential qualities, how we look at life, our demeanor, and, just how people perceive us, our sensibilities. And, so it's inner and outer body. And so, first house is really going to be the first thing that we look at to see where the beginnings of you are, and how you're going to be shaped throughout a lifetime. And it's a really important energy to know that you possess, so that you can be able to tap into it, because it's your soul. It's the energy that your soul is. We have ego for our sun, we have our emotional body, our moon, but the rising sign is your soul. And if you always remember that your soul is a slut, your soul wants to learn as much as possible, and your soul is what shows up and shows you what you're made of when crisis hits. So, it makes you really understand that there's a piece of you. You may think like, hey, I'm water, or know your sun and your moon. I'm water and I'm earth, or I'm water and I'm fire, but I don't really feel like I'm that organized. I don't really feel like I can make a list and I can follow through and I can show up and I can be grounded and I can, take a breath in a moment of crisis and show up. But then you realize, you've got a Virgo or a Capricorn rising sign, or a Taurus rising sign. You've got some earth in there, and you may not have any other earth in your chart, but then you realize that you have that, and you're able to tap into it, and you realize you do have that within you, and that you're able to really start to feel it. And as people age and they get older and they reach their teens, their 20s, and especially their 30s, they do really start to feel this extra energy that they didn't know was there. And that's the rising sign. That's the first house. Excuse me. That you're tapping into, and you're understanding that there's more to you than what you originally thought was there. And you start to realize that your soul possesses so much more. And so that's why it's really important to know the time of your birth, and know what your rising sign is, and know what energy that you are ascending towards, because it really helps you to understand why you're here and to shape that within the course of your life, and to understand how people are perceiving you, because again, it only inspires compassion for yourself and helps you understand what other people are perceiving, and help you really shape that even better. So it'll just make you feel more like a whole person. So this was my interpretation of the first house. I hope you guys really are able to understand a little bit better the houses. In the next video, we're going to discuss the second house, what the second house means. And I hope you guys all completely are more clear about the fact that the houses are where the energy manifests within your life, and each house is a part of your life. So, with that being said, next time we will discuss the Taurus second house that's ruled by Taurus and Venus, and we will discuss what that means for your life and for your chart. And I'll see you guys back next time. And always remember, until next time, to inspire compassion for everyone. Take care, guys. See you later.